Hey everyone, this is Disc Junkie, and welcome back to Discjunkie'S Duster. So it's still winter here, but we are going to take a look at another little sort of indoors project inside the Duster, and we are going to examine how you can actually replace your standard gearshift knob with something more elaborate and cool looking. So just stay tuned as we jump into the Duster and take a look at what's going on. And so here we have the gearshift knob that we are going to be working on today. This is a Dacia Duster 2021 model. It would be defined as the Duster 2 or the second generation. This has a plastic top to it and the bottom base is sort of rubbery. I have seen some variations where this bottom portion is more like leather, I believe, with like a stitching to it. This is not that version. This is essentially the purely rubber version. It had a bit of a slit here or something that looks like a seam, but it's not like you can take it apart as far as I can tell, or at least not here. So this has the 6 gears to it and the reverse. So this is the design that you're looking at. Now, I don't really know much about the history of this particular knob, but based on the videos I've seen, I haven't really found any detail or good description as to how you actually dismantle this. So this is going to be kind of like a bit of a trial and error. I have seen one video or one or two, where people are essentially just pulling this straight upwards. Now, I have tried to do this, but I am not strong enough, or there is just, something about this that doesn't make this work. I have seen one video which actually has a process where you dismantle this, but this was not actually for a Dacia Duster 2021. It was for a different car, but the knob looked very similar. So we are going to examine this and try to dismantle it. I'm going to set you up on a tripod so you can see the process in more detail, and we're going to try to figure out how the hell this is supposed to be done. And I'm actually going to come in to do a bit of a voiceover here because this whole process took quite a bit of time to document and quite a bit of time to edit to make it watchable. But the first part is really simple. You're going to use a flat-headed screwdriver to just pop this plastic lid off. And it's pretty easy to damage this on the underside, essentially breaking one of the plastic clasps as you're removing it. But even if you do so, it's still going to be okay to reattach it. So I wouldn't really worry about this. Now, the next part is really simple. There is essentially a plastic piece, which you can see here, and this is just laying at the core, so you can remove this by hand. I'm using a flat-headed screwdriver, but this was primarily because I didn't want to obstruct the view with my hands. And we're actually going to go in for a detailed look of each individual piece. And the thought behind this is that if you're doing the same process, I really think it's important to make sure 100% that you're working on the same model of knob as I am. Now, the next part is the most difficult one. Here you have a metal core, which is very sort of encased in this rubber outer casing. So I tried to approach this using a flat-headed screwdriver again, and I tried prying at it from this side. Didn't really make any change. I tried to pry at it from different angles, but the thing just doesn't budge. I even went with spoons at one point. It's like, why would I think that there's an engineer out there who just decided that, hey, you know what? The best tool for this job is going to be spoons. It's just stupid. And I actually gave up with this idea fairly fast, but I'm desperate at this point. So I went back to the flat-headed screwdriver again. I'm prying at it, nothing's happening. But then I suddenly realized that there are these 2 slits on each side, which I didn't really realize had a purpose. But once I put the screwdrivers there and I'm using one on each side, prying at them at the same time, you will see that the metal core is finally starting to budge ever so slowly, just edging upward. So this is the best approach for this. And I think that even for the people who have been making videos where you pull this knob straight off using just sheer force of your hands, I would imagine this can be done. But if you're doing this the first time, I think you're going to be using the flat-headed screwdriver, because with each attempt to remove this, I'm sure you're gonna wear a little on the plastic, and this is gonna make it easier to remove with each attempt. But if this is your first time, I would advise you to use the screwdrivers and just be persistent, and you will see here that it does essentially pop off. And here you can see a bit of detail on the metal core in case you want to see what it looks like. But like I said, the best approach for this, just use 2 screwdrivers, pry at it from 2 sides at the same time, and it will essentially pop off. Next part is pretty simple. You're gonna take your hand and just twist this counterclockwise, like so. And then you can just lift it straight upwards. It's really simple, there's no real force needed. And here you can also take a detailed look at what this looks like in case you're curious. So with this, we have actually ended up at the center of this. Now we just have a simple plastic piece which is covering the core. But with that said, let's just move on. Right, so now that I've come this far, I've decided to just take a bit of a break and take a look at what we got. We'll still have the reverse sort of functionality where you have to pull this up to be able to add the reverse gear. Now I really don't want to do anything to mess this up, but I desperately need to remove this white plastic portion because this is the only thing that's left that's protecting me from actually accessing the sort of center pole that is all metal. But the problem is that I can't really get enough force to pull this off. I tried using some pliers, but it doesn't really work. So we are actually going to be removing this bottom portion to get some more access to this and maybe be able to pry it from underneath, because right now I can't really reach the down part of this because that is obstructed by this, which I can't really remove. So I'm gonna try to actually get this base off, which, okay, that's actually pretty simple. So then we're just gonna pull this up like we're pulling a sweater over our head, and yeah, now you can see what it looks like below here. So not a pretty sight, but don't worry, this is the way it's supposed to be. And what we are going to want to access, I think, is if I pull this up far enough, there should be some sort of locking mechanism here. All right, so here's a bit of a closer look at what we're dealing with. Basically, you have two clasps here. There's one on this side and an identical one on the other side. And I've actually unclasped this already, so this is actually loose. But the way it worked is that this is actually going straight down, and you can see that this is going to snap into these openings here and an identical one on the other side. So basically what you need to do, see, now I just snapped it in there. So in order for you to open this, you will just need to take a simple screwdriver on this side and pull the top portion while just bending this slightly outward. So it's really not a difficult process, but it's sort of hard to do with one hand, so I just dropped my screwdriver. So I'm gonna loosen this once again. Just give me a second. All right, so now that that's out of the way, I've actually unclasped this again. Then you can just go ahead and pull this upwards, and it's actually going to come up directly just loose over this. So now we have this, which we're gonna leave intact as it is, because it's very important to keep this bottom portion, because that is the reverse function, which we definitely want to keep. So I'm just going to put this to the side, and now we can have a much better access, I hope, to try and remove this. So my first attempt is probably going to be to use a pair of pliers and some kind of hammer maybe, but I'm going to set you up on a tripod again, and we're going to see if we can't get this to actually come loose. Right, so I don't think this is glued down. I'm hoping it's not glued down, so see, I'm just going to try a pair of pliers from beneath like this. See what we can do. Okay, it's quite hard to tell, but this is actually moving upwards, so I'm just going to keep doing that. It does actually look like it's moving upward. It's very tightly on there, but I'm just going to keep going. Yeah, it's coming. And there we go. Let's see if I can get the last piece off by hand. Maybe not. Whoa, there we go. Okay. That was definitely quite the process. But now we have our bare bones gear shifting stick here. You can actually see that this is the portion we removed. It is actually just a plastic cylinder. You know, it's just straight, simple hole. There's no sort of clasp or anything. This is very sort of just machined. There's nothing on it. Seems to be maybe some slight ruffles, just small marking on the side. I don't know if we can get out. But yeah, this is definitely quite easy to remove. You definitely just need a pair of pliers and a hammer and be persistent. Don't be afraid to actually really hit this, because this is quite a solid construct. I don't think you're going to damage anything. So yeah, this is the basis of the work done. So now we can actually proceed to finally try to add our new custom gear shifter. And this is something I picked off of a place called Yoom.com. Got it in this little bag here. This is the first time I've ordered from them. It is sort of like a Chinese kind of marketplace, kind of like Wish, I think. So I was a bit sort of not sure about the quality, but now I got it and I'm actually feeling quite excited, because I think this is actually not a bad deal for what I paid. I don't remember exactly now. I think this was somewhere between 20 or 30 euro, including the shipping. And I actually didn't have to pay customs for this, which was a big surprise. So I don't know if they have some sort of deal with the customs department, seeing as sort of like Wish, where you don't have to pay customs because people are just buying so much stuff from these sites and the customs office can't handle it. And therefore, I think they have some sort of special deal where you don't have to pay customs from certain shops, even though they are shipping from China. But I'm rambling. So what I ordered is essentially, I got this little bag here, which is, first of all, a bit of an adapter, which is metal. It's black. I decided to go with the black version. And so what this is an adapter that you should be able to use for any kind of base, essentially. If you don't have a threaded base where you will just twist to remove your gear shift knob, then you definitely need this adapter, because this should go on basically all kinds of sizes, because, you know, this is, I noticed this is a little bit larger. So hoping this will still work, but you will essentially add some screws on the side here to fasten this. And then I also purchased a custom, well, not custom, but a off-brand alternate style gear shift knob. And this also came with a couple of these little adapter pieces. But aside from that, see if we can get this out. Sorry about this. I guess I should have prepared this a little bit more, but I was just really excited when I finally got the plastic portion off there, because that actually took quite a bit of time to figure out. And it's just, I've been thinking about this for the longest of time, trying to planning, ordering pieces. It's just been really difficult to research. But what I was going to say is that the gear shift knob that I actually ordered is this one. So this is an acrylic gear shift knob and it is threaded, but you also get these little adapters which are also threaded for different sizes. But then on the top side here you have the standard or somewhat standard pattern that I have, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then on the number 6 you actually have something that says, if I can focus on this, come on, there you go. Number 6 actually says fucking fast, which I thought was a bit edgy and kind of funny. But aside from that, everything looks the same. We got the reverse gear where it's supposed to be. So this fits on this. And yeah, now we're just going to mount this. And this shouldn't be too hard to do. So I'm actually going to pause here and then I'm going to show you once it's done. But before we can mount our new gear shift knob, we obviously need to bring this back. I almost forgot about this. So this is essentially pretty simple to do. If you remember how we did it, we just put this back. Make sure that this clicks in like so. And then we just pull this over the whole thing. See, bring it down there. And this just has these plastic things that snap back into position. So you really don't need any particular tools to do this. So there we go. Now that is back where it's supposed to be. The gears work and move as they should. So now we can begin to actually position our adapter piece. And yeah, hopefully this is gonna look pretty sick. And here's also a quick look at what you actually get in the package, because I realized I hadn't showed it. So you get these little screws, which are going to go in on the side of this adapter. But then you also get these, which I hadn't really realized were in the package. These are these rubber adapters, which should go over your center pole, depending on what size you have. So you can see that you have some different sizes. And then this rubber thing is going to help hold this in place even harder, because I did notice that this was actually quite oversized for this metal pole. So yeah, we're gonna add that, and then the screws. So just stay tuned. All right, so I finished everything up. I now have my new gear shift knob in place, looking pretty slick to me. You can just see the detail from the top in case you missed it before. So this is a fully acrylic gear shift knob. I now have it moving in all the gears. It's pretty solid. And like I said, if I do want to go into reverse, I will have to use that. So that is a different grip, definitely, but it's not a, it's not a problem. I can't really do that like I did before. That's not really practical, but it's not difficult to do that. So yeah, I gotta say I'm pretty happy with it. Looks pretty cool. And moving forward, it's not like it's in the way. I wouldn't say that. A little bit if you're gonna adjust the knobs, but then again, usually when you're driving, I don't know, I think it's fine. We'll see. It is a little bit in the way, I will say that, because it is about 4 centimeters higher. So yeah, it's a little bit in the way in terms of reaching the knobs, but not super obtrusive. I'm sure I can get used to it. So just going in for a little bit of detail, here you can see the final in terms of the little adapter, how that looks. The screws here, they stick out a little bit. I didn't want to tighten them too hard because it felt like I started to sort of slip in the, like the little key started slipping, and I really don't want to damage screws to the point where I can't remove them. So yeah, I think the base looks pretty cool, or the adapter looks pretty cool. It's definitely a nice design. I wouldn't have minded if this was a bit wider, so it was more matching with the width of the reverse function, so to speak. But overall, I am really happy with this. I think it looks a lot cooler than the original. And yeah, it is definitely a much better grip. I really prefer the round shape as to the original, which was just a flat. So yeah, this was definitely a really fun project, and yeah, I'm really excited by this. I think it looks really cool, so hopefully you do as well. But in any case, that is essentially it for me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that it was helpful, because this has been a process which has been really hard for me to figure out. I've found some videos, but there really hasn't been any good source to find out how to do this on this particular model of Duster. So really hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching, and as usual, hope to see you all next time.